I have here with me Tobias, Ghost, and Brann from Mastodon.
Hi.
Personally, very excited to hear from these two fine gentlemen here. We can see the chat box kicking off. If time allows, we will open the floor to some questions. But for now, it's over to you, boys.
Hi everyone.
Hey everybody.
Hi,
this
Brann.
is Brann. This is Brann talking.
This is Tobias.
Sweet.
We're in Peoria, Illinois.
Yes, the first European settlement, I think, of the States.
Was it?
By the French.
Oh, okay. That happened here.
1600s or something.
Yeah. Fast forward to now.
Right.
Look what Peoria became.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, where Richard Pryor got his start.
Oh
In the
yeah,
clubs
I
around
should
here
know
doing
that.
some,
Actually,
doing
I'm
some
a
comedy.
huge fan of Richard Pryor.
And they had a big red light district here in the better part of the 20th century. Lots of brothels and things like that. They're all gone now. We can't go visit them.
No, but we played it a couple times actually, and it's always pretty nice.
Yeah. No,
Or actually very nice. It's yeah. I mean, I don't know. Have you look upon that? But you're an American band, so for you guys, it's a little bit more your backyard. But
sort of.
But for
yeah.
European band, like we've always sort of made a thing out of touring America, like proper, like
Right.
not only just go to the microbreweries, of Williamsburg, which a lot of but a lot of bands think that if I can do a club in Williamsburg, we've made it in America. But
yeah.
No,
especially this tour has been to a lot of places that are sort of off the beaten path and don't get a lot of tour traffic, I think. So I think that's awesome. It's always good to bring the rock to the kids that don't live in the big cities. They appreciate it a lot.
Yes.
They don't get a lot of shows. So there you go. I'm from Rochester, New York, and we didn't get a ton of shows when I was a kid. So when bands came to town, it was a huge deal. So I hope that's the same reaction that they're having to a tour like this.
Yeah, I come from a very similar thing where I grew up in Linköping, which is nowadays it gets a show here and there, but back in the 80s, 90s, it was like not happening.
Not happening.
No. And we always had the problem that our city was too close to Stockholm. So
right.
It's just 2 hours away from Stockholm.
Yeah.
Which all the big bands came to Stockholm or Gothenburg, and therefore no one would come there.
So did you drive? Did you pile in a car with a bunch of your friends and drive to Stockholm to see big rock shows when you were a teenager?
Absolutely. But I moved to Stockholm when I was 16. So
okay. So you got there just in time.
I got there, but before that, I had to go up there. Like, fortunately, my mom was from Stockholm, so my grandmother lived there.
Gotcha.
So anytime I wanted to go there and go to a concert, I can just
stay at grandma's house.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, we the closest city to Rochester is Buffalo, so and it's just a little bit bigger than Rochester, so I felt like a lot of the shows would go there, but it was a little over an hour drive, so car full of teenagers, roll up there, see the show, and come back.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that big of a deal, but
yeah. Touring is fun though. We do have a little bit of a little list of bullet points of things that we were told that people are interested in.
Oh, sweet.
So you want to check that out?
Yeah, let's look at it. Let's see. We both seem to write concept albums, is what it says here. Is that true?
I guess so. I guess that's why it's interesting for you and I to talk about it, just to sort of, if there is a differentiation between the way that we conceptualize records.
Yeah, it's asking, do you have a concept or narrative before you go into the studio? For us, absolutely. It might not be fully realized, I don't think, but we always have something to look at. And I always felt like concepts, I guess maybe backtrack a little bit. For me personally, when I was a kid, I think some of the albums that I gravitated towards, like Genesis, Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, and just things that had this narrative. I just felt like your ability to be a fan of that particular group or that particular album, for me, just became so much more. There was so much more to offer from an album like a King Diamond Them or something like that. You could read this story, and it had this whole thing, this whole narrative that rode along in tandem with the music, and you could kind of have this movie play in your head of what was going on. It wasn't just maybe loose leafed song ideas, having nothing to do with each other. So I always really enjoyed that, and I always thought that it was you know, when it came time to have my own band, I wanted to try to do something similar, you know. Plus, I feel like it gives you an opportunity to be able to really have something to concentrate on and look at and build aesthetics around with the album, and gives the fans again an opportunity to get totally immersed in the album and the look and, you know, the story that's being told.
And I think that I usually in one way or another compare when conversely like this, I compare my work and our work, what we're doing very much with restaurants or making films or architecture actually.
Right.
You know, the difference between being you know, an architect on one hand when you're making something, but when you're on tour you're actually just a carpenter. You just it's just a physical labor where you're sort of just doing what according to plan.
Yeah,
you work according to spec. And but conceptual records can, just because you mentioned King Diamond, was obviously extremely storytelling, with a story that starts from the first second and ends at the last song.
of course. Yeah, it's very you can follow it, you know, ABCD all the way through. Yeah,
it's a story with a storyline with characters and
right,
that. But on the other hand, you have a band like Kiss, whom definitely did, it was the same, you know, lyrically, like there was the same debauchery. It was just about fingers going here, there, and everywhere, and wishing it was done to you, and, you know, and
of course,
pulling love guns and stuff.
Meeting you at the ladies' room.
Exactly. And or going blind, which is a horrible text. But anyway, they still sort of ended up doing a an era concept that I gravitated towards, especially that I mimicked a little with our band, where, you know, they had costumes and a getup that was specific to an era.
Right.
So you could see the difference between like the Love Gun tour and the Rock and Roll Over tour and the Destroyer tour, and if it's a picture from 1974 or early 75, a live tour, and all that. So conceptually, you can, it doesn't necessarily have to be as detailed and as hardcore as King Diamond.
Right. Like a book.
Yeah, it's more from a restaurant point of view. It's like,
it's a grand concept.
Yeah, and it's rather knowing
an arc that's not really, you know, it's gonna keep going.
And it's also maybe know where it's not going.
Right.
Like, yeah, we're doing an Asian fusion, so no, we're not doing it. Maybe we do hamburgers because it's kind of, but we're not going to do pancakes.
Right.
That's what we're not doing, because we're opening up the pancake place next year.
Right.
Or crepe.
And they don't know that.
Yeah, the complete creperie.
A creperie. A crap creperie.
Yeah. So how do you have anything more to say about concept albums? Because we do have other bullet points, and I think we can talk about that forever.
We could talk about concept albums forever, but I will say that they're just it's just a lot of fun to just exercise that other aspect of being creative within being in a band, you know.
Yeah.
Where if you're not doing that, you know, it's you know, for me it's just not as fun, you know. It's like I have, you know, we have other aspects of creativity that we can access, and you just try to put everything that you can into your project, which in our case is Mastodon. So it's just try to put every single bit of my imagination into that.
And another thing I think that people will probably know, but also just because we're talking about concept albums as if that was a one solidified thing, which we've already covered that it's maybe not. Many records are concept albums without being intentionally so.
Right.
Because many artists throughout the history of time have written albums on the back of trauma or life change.
Yeah,
like life-changing. And so you have the, you know, the classic, especially amongst a lot of the singer-songwriters, is the big divorce record, or
like Backseat Change or something like that.
Yeah.
Was like, you know, it's unavoidable for every song is going to be about that specific topic that was at the forefront of the artist's mind. And there's no way that, and all the songs were written that around that specific event. So there's no way that you could sidestep it and be like, oh, and I'm going to sing a song about, you know, Ed Gein. And just throw that in there for good measure.
Yeah, which makes me think, are you a fan of a Macabre?
Macabre?
Yeah, Chicago band.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I love that band.
Yeah, band's amazing.
Go Illinois.
Yeah.
Okay, so next bullet point is your latest record, Hushed and Grim. Does that differ? How does that differ to your process for Ghost? Am I?
I guess
I'm not able to read here.
I think I think what it's trying to say is that let's see.
This is on this concept.
Right, wants me to talk about the inspiration behind the album, writing process, narrative, and how that differs from your process. But I feel like we sort of touched on that with the concept album.
Yeah,
talking, but you know, my first for Hushed and Grim, you know, unfortunately we lost our manager Nick John, who you knew, and you know, horrible situation. He had pancreatic cancer, and it was awful to watch our friend go through that, and so it was such a devastating loss for our band, you know, kind of the band's dad, you know, so to speak. And so we knew that the next thing that we made was going to be for him and probably would be about him in some regard. But I guess we try not to be too literal, you know, especially when it comes to the ability, you know, we want to make the art make some piece of art out of that situation. And so my first basic idea was to have this tree metaphor and maybe this throw another afterlife mythology into the pot, as if there weren't enough. So I said, maybe the soul of a human inhabits the heart of a tree and experiences all four seasons to say goodbye to the natural world, and then moves on to the next plane of existence, whatever that may be. So that was the starting point for Hushed and Grim. So I always get this one little spark, one little idea or something that I sort of maybe came up with, and then I try to write it out from there, you know, and I share it with all the guys, and then we will sit and work on lyrics together and, you know, go through all that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Nice concept, I must say.
Thanks.
And yeah, I just must do a little shout out to Nick John. He's a very missed
absolutely
person.
Awesome,
for
awesome
anyone
guy.
who doesn't know, also that Nick John was part of the same management team as now our managers,
right?
Kristen and Rick.
Yeah, Kristen and Rick.
They were working together. So
yeah, everybody worked all together. You know, Nick worked on Ghost stuff. Kristen always worked on Mastodon stuff. They all were sort of, they don't have very many bands that they work with.
No,
I think that, and then they just try to pay special attention to us, you guys, Gojira, you know, and at the time, you know, Slayer for a long time. That was kind of the flagship, obviously, band that sort of started their Rick Sales whole thing. And but it's a very family vibe over there, you know what I mean? They all love each other very much, and so you feel that as a band that's managed by a group of people that are like that, you know. And then you see and hear stories from other bands that you're friends with, and you realize that you have something special, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I'm just quickly sort of reverting back to the concept, how concept albums can be, you know, they stem from a seedling of an idea that makes your mind work, but at the end of the day, it doesn't mean that every stroke of the painting will be done with that intention. It's just a summary of a mindset.
Yeah. Absolutely, and a vibe, and just something to look at. I'm real visual, and I think that you are too, obviously. And I need something to look at, and even if Brent's playing a riff or something, I can see a movie in my head that goes along with that riff, and I'm like, oh, that feels like this scene, and so that will eventually work its way into the narrative and be a big inspiration for what the lyrical content might be. Is from the what's playing in your mind's eye when you are evoked by a riff or some kind of piece of music.
Yeah, no, because my concepts have always also been pretty loose in the sense that but I have a tendency to write things knowing what I'm going to do next.
Right.
So as an easy example, and people who've been following us the last year, I've already heard this story, but just to sort of throw it in there on the subject of concept albums. Prequel, our previous record, was written with the mindset was the little person against the wrath of God, if you will, like society and life and physical life sort of being threatened by this giant enemy that was also came in shape of mist and miasma and but just to sort of explain it to like it to as a symbol, I use the concept of the plague.
Okay.
Because the plague, especially in the 1300s and even 1600s when it happened, the mankind that was subjectified, obviously they were many of them were religious, most of them weren't very educated at all,
right? Yeah.
And they were also superstitious. So it's like they thought literally like we are being killed by God because women don't cover their tits. Like that was the sort of level of it.
I still believe that.
And that's a wrap.
Yeah.
Whereas already making that record, I knew that next time I want to make a record that has to do with more structural demise,
right,
with the mechanisms within an empire that is sort of set to self-destruction.
Right.
So that has very little to do with the little person.
Right.
So in my head, that was two completely different records. But as the restaurants, just because we start an Asian fusion one day and then we have a French one down the street, it's still cutlery. It's still salt and pepper.
Right.
It's still like pipes and drapes and shit. It's still just rock.
Exactly.
But it helps you write the record.
It does. Yeah. It gets you. You're like, okay, I need something to write about. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, next bullet point. The filming process for the documentary, The Making of Hushed and Grim. Talk about experience documenting the process.
Well, I'd say it was pretty much, it was deep within the pandemic when we did the record. So we had a lot of time on our hands, and so that opened up the ability to not only just, I mean, when you're recording an album, you hope that the documentarians that are in the room are just fly on the wall and they don't really affect what you're doing, or you're not playing to them, you're not you don't know they're there, hopefully, right?
Can you say that again a little bit more assertion?
Yeah. So but we had a lot of time, like I said, and so we did a bunch of skits that are nestled within the making of documentary, which are always fun. Yeah. I did a little bit with I don't know if you've watched 1.5 years in the life of Metallica and the making of the Black Album.
times.
Yeah, me too. It's one of my it's one of my grandma's meatloaf or warm blanket on tour. I don't know why, but I'll just put that on, and I'm having a bad day, I just watch those guys make the Black Album, and for some reason I enjoy I like hanging out with those guys during that time period.
Oh yeah.
But there's some scenes where Lars is wants to record his drums really late, and he's got the he's got a,
then he has to eat, and then he has to take a fucking nap, and
so we did a little bit about that, and I'm Lars and I'm playing basketball, and I'll do anything to avoid doing my drum tracks. So
you dry hump the producer and when he was giving you
no, I
tips
didn't.
on
No, I left that part out. Yeah, David wouldn't have it. But Yeah, you know, basically you just get some people that are going to sit there and film your every move, and then hopefully in the editing process it all comes together and looks awesome, you know. But
on a side note to that, have you seen the additional material that came out like a year ago on that?
from that, I don't know.
Oh,
You got to send
Brann,
that.
you have to see that.
Send that to me.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's
Okay.
it's like a whole nother film. It's like an hour more
Oh, Jesus.
of stuff that you haven't seen.
Okay, well, you got to
And
link me up, dude.
oh, that film fucked me up so much because, you know, I saw that film probably 150 times before I had ever been to a studio. So when I came into the studio making my first demo, I was like, this is how, this is how you make a record.
Yeah.
It's always been like that film about making a record and that film about how you tour a record. That's always been like that's how you do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Anything below that, that fucking sucks.
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, a little bit of Metallica trivia. The Black Album tour, as in the one with the diamond,
right,
that premiered here.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, here in
Peoria. Wow.
That was the first night in October 28th or something like that.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't ever want to tell Lars or James or anyone, this is a secret between you and I, how much of a fan I am of that band.
Okay, I won't say anything.
No, please don't.
Yeah.
It makes me look like a fanboy. But yeah, holy shit. You mentioned Genesis.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the bullet point underneath here saying favorite concept albums of your own.
Yeah, what do you got?
Of your own releases or other artists. Okay. So
Other artists.
Other artists.
What do you like conceptually?
I obviously a huge huge fan of King Diamond. I love King Diamond. And I've always been fascinated by the idea, you know, with the idea of that he's doing, like telling a story like that.
Yeah.
There's plenty of albums like that aren't very good.
Right. Yeah.
And which I'm not gonna mention. This is not to sort of make others look bad, but the concept of when you choose to write with a story, you're setting yourself up to for trouble, because it's I think that the film business is very, especially historically, not the films from like 50, 60, 70 years ago, because it required so much professionality to just even to be able to make a film. But the last 50 years, maybe like 70s and 80s, especially with horror and all that,
right,
there were so many peddlers in the business that came into making films where at the end of the day they weren't really directors. They were more like, you're just a very good scenography person.
Right.
You're making it because you want a beautiful film where the story is actually pretty shit.
Right.
I have my favorite example of that, which is actually a very well-known, very new film that people revere, which is Drive.
Okay.
If you take that script and hand that over to someone else, it's actually a pretty substandard film.
Yeah.
The story itself is not very good.
No, but
it's a beautiful film. So people think that's a great film just because it's done in a slightly Kubrick-esque sort of slow.
It's quiet.
It has nice music. It's night lighting and all that stuff. So I see that they have like it's an aesthetic idea that's great. But if the story had been even better, it would have been fucking a masterpiece. And I think it's the same thing when you're a rock band or you're a songwriter and you all of a sudden like, I have a story to tell.
Yeah. Because
you're still going to present it in the form of music. And there's a whole lot of practical issues when making when just the sound of a record that will dictate a lot of things that will fuck you up story-wise.
Yeah, that's why, I mean, I've never really I don't think we've ever really actually locked into like, you know, this is an ABCD story being told from start to finish. It's been, you know, a little more ambiguous when it comes to following along with the lyrics, you know, oh, we're at this part of the story now. It's not really locked in that, you know, it's not that rigid.
Mm.
I'll tell the story on the outside and be like, this is what the story is, you know,
Right,
Crack the Sky or something. It goes like this. Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
So, and that's what everything's going to be written about. And that's what's going to be surrounding it. But because you're right. I mean, it's like, there's a big difference between the music that's actually happening and the flow of an album when you're sitting and listening to it, when you are the artist and you've sat down with everybody and you're like, okay, well, like it's building a set list, you know, you're building your playlist, you're making, these are the songs on the album and this is the first song on the album. Okay, so what's number 2? A lot of times you'll say, I have the first song and I have the last song. I know that I want those two. Has to be the last song. That has to be the thing that takes us off into the sunset. That's what that sounds like. And this sounds like the first song, you know. And then you have to fill everything in between there. So the genius of King Diamond, you know, of being able to tell this story and have the record be musically flowing is like, you know, we need to talk to him. We need to get him on the phone.
We should have had him on it because he does it really fucking well.
Because yeah, you can follow it all the way from start to finish, and it's telling you the story as you go along. So it's like, man, did they pick the music? Did they just have the music first and then they? Because it's difficult to sort of do that, but especially with us, you know, there's 4 of us obviously, and so we all have different ideas about, well, what song's going to go second and what song's going to go third, and that's always like this big. Not argument, but you know, there's a lot of talking about that, you know, and a lot of like, well, I think this should, you know, some strong feelings about what should be second. You know, it's the most important thing in the whole world when you're in it and making it, you know, and then maybe later on you reflect on it and you go, maybe it wasn't so important that song was third. You know what I mean?
Right.
It really wasn't detrimental to the album that song ended up being third, but man, when you're in the moment, you're like, no, it has to be.
But the thing is, I can get like a storytelling vibe hearing artists who are definitely would not sort of proclaim to have written conceptual records. I mean, like Bruce Springsteen.
Oh yeah.
When I'm listening to Bruce Springsteen, I'm sort of.
You're in New Jersey.
I'm in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And when he sings about the 60s, I'm hit with him in the 60s. And
yeah,
then he
paints
about
a very, very clear picture
of when, you know,
what he wants to put in your mind.
Glory days, you're with him in that bar with all these people talking about how good of things were back in the day and how they're in the future going to think about back to this moment of being the glory days and so forth. So it's like that's a concept. It's the same thing. Are you a Marillion fan?
Marillion? Not really.
Okay. I'm actually...
Do you like Marillion?
I actually love Marillion.
Should I get into it?
You should.
Okay.
For the longest time, and now I'm going to be very frank.
All right.
For the longest time, I never really understood the genius that is Marillion.
Okay.
Because I thought of Marillion, they sounded like Spinal Tap, but without the joke.
Right. That's what my mind. That's where. And I don't have anything to base this on because I don't even know if I've heard a Marillion song. I think I probably have, but I don't know for certain. But maybe seeing album covers or just some peripheral knowledge, you know, made me think that I might not be into something like that. But you know.
I think you can change your mind. Marillion, the first 4 records. You
got 2 links you got to send me.
Yes, the records they made with Fish. The first singer, the original singer, and this is not shitting on anyone who's singing right now or anything. I'm just saying that
take it easy.
The records with Fish are fucking amazing.
Okay,
they're really, really beautiful. I mean, you're a proggy person as well as am I. And the only thing that as a songwriter I can be a little bit annoyed with, I don't have a problem with this just because I listen to a lot of prog, but obviously the songwriter in me is like, why are you just playing that really beautiful thing once?
Right. Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of that with Marillion.
There's a lot. That's a lot of proggy.
Like the beautiful, really, really beautiful snippet. It comes only once.
It's gone, and
it takes 7 minutes to get there.
Right.
So if you like Ramones, you might not like that, but I think that you liking prog music, I think Marillion is a great suggestion to look into. But I just wanted to say that Fish, his lyrics are also very, once you sort of get over, I thought he was sort of melodramatic, kind of peccary, because his lyrics were really, it sounds like almost a caricature of theater.
Right.
Oh, how you look at through the miscarriage of the mind.
Okay.
You know, it's
Yeah.
like, but he's singing about his life. He's singing about his reality right there and then. And if you sort of just take a little time and just place it in a sort of a 70s, Marillion was an 80s band.
Right, yeah.
And they were completely out of sync with everything.
Okay.
Because they sort of labeled as a heavy metal band for some reason. And they were all over Kerrang.
Right, yeah.
And they played like heavy metal festivals.
Yeah.
And their
Like,
biggest
why?
idols must have been like Genesis. Like,
yes, King Crimson, all that.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Very, 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 very AOR, very proggy.
Cool. Okay.
Anyway, listen to Marillion, especially Fugazi is a great record.
I'm gonna listen to Marillion.
Misplaced Childhood is fucking amazing. Oh, you want to take the next bullet point?
We can do a bullet point, or we can do a question from a fan.
Let's do a question from a fan. Why don't we? Ryan, Shang,
Yeah,
do
Ryan.
you have a question for us?
Yes. Okay, so this is from Josh Johnson. Hi, Tobias and Brann. What about each show builds your musical skills and keeps the fire lit?
Which part of the show?
Yes. Where in the show, if there's any moment that makes you feel like this is why you're doing it.
I can come up with a lot of funny answers, but yeah, in the shower.
Yeah.
Yeah, what is that? Do you want to start?
The toilet with no doors yesterday. That was good.
Oh, which is very standard when you come to these
funny,
sport
yeah.
halls. That
The
we're
gang
playing.
showers, those are nice. If you turn them all on and you run around, it's quite fun.
Yeah.
No, during the show, man, I mean, I don't really need much to, light the fire. I need the intro, and then from there, I'm kind of off to the races. It's pretty awesome. I don't really have much of a dip, in enthusiasm to be up there doing it. You know what I mean? But we were talking last night about I had a few shows where we call him Peter. I'm not even really sure why, but this is a voice that appears in your head. That's you talking to you.
Oh yeah.
About you're going to screw this next part up, or your sticks are going to fly out of your hands, and you're like, and then I'm saying to myself, who's saying this to me, no, I'm not, and stop saying that, and go back where hence you came, Peter. No one wants to talk to you right now.
Thought about a steaks box for you. You can
yeah, I thought about it. Yeah. So, as far as like being on stage and then like getting inside your own head, there's some weird moments, where it's like I've had moments where I'm outside, almost feel like I'm maybe floating outside of my body and looking down upon myself and saying, what the hell are you doing? Just flailing about, it's very, so it's a weird place to be, but Peter's gone away for now. And I've just been having a great time on stage. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I think that's also one thing that you don't want people to think about, but since we're having a conversation about it, when you're doing a somewhat well orchestrated show, and I'm not just saying just because we are sort of come off as theatrical. I mean, a show is filled with cues, even for a band that just looks like they've just even a Pearl Jam,
like we're jeans t-shirts people.
Yeah. Just because
Metallica,
just because you come up and rock out in your streetwear,
right,
does not mean that all of a sudden everything is completely improvised. Just throw us a song and we'll just play it.
No.
And you do similar doo-doo. I said doo-doo.
You did say, I was gonna say oh, doo-doo.
Sorry people, I know that you're we're not gonna waste so much time with that kind of shit.
Kind of behavior.
But anyway, so that there is in total with I don't know exactly how many people are working for us, and I don't know exactly how many people are actively working throughout the show, but it's definitely like 20, 30, 40 people in tandem doing something.
Yeah.
So there's so many cues. There are so many cues that everybody needs to keep track of. And you do accidentally have those nights when there's just a tiny tad too many like wrenches thrown into the system, where you can't stop thinking about, you have those Peters where you're just like, fuck, am I gonna fall now? And a lot of our stage is like grading, and if you fall on that one, you will you get screwed up.
Hospital.
Yeah, and we've all done that with bruises and cuts and stuff. And there's a lot of things that can go wrong. But what I really like is those shows when it's just fluent. It's like a martial arts reference. It's like a kata, if you know what that is. It just flows.
That's perfect.
Yeah, you just know your movements, and it becomes a little bit like being Neo in Matrix, where you're just like, everything.
I had one the other night.
Yeah,
or I had the best show of the tour. I can't remember where it was. It was like a couple shows ago. And I got off stage and I was like, oh man, that was like, I nailed it. Like I do so many fills, as you know, mainly because if I screw one up, I have one right around the corner and I'll get that one. Just throw all the baloney up against the wall. But, but if I nail every single one, and I can tell maybe 3 songs in, I'm like, okay, I'm totally in the zone. I'm completely locked in, and everything is going to be just easy and fun. You know what I mean? That's what I look for every single night. It's probably, you could tell a gamer, your perfect run on whatever thing, you hit everything you were supposed to do, and you nailed it start to finish. And for the set, I look at it like that. People are like, what's your favorite song? I'm like, no, it's a whole moving thing. And even when there's breaks in between songs, those aren't breaks. That's like, we're just getting set up for the next one. It's going to start any second. It's up to me for these cues and and all the singing that I'm doing as well. It's just a lot, so everything. So you just love what you're saying, when everything is just fluid like that, and it just moves from start to finish. We get done with our thing, and you can look back and be like, yes, okay, I had a perfect one.
One thing I really like, regardless of how the show went, is that the end of the show, when the show is ended and we do the bows and you see people happy, that completely what's the word,
overrides any kind of like anxiety you had during the set, or any kind of like so I screwed up one little bit, and no one's gonna even hear that. I know that, you know what I mean? I've watched plenty of shows, of my friends, and you walk up to your friend after their show and you're like, that was amazing, and they're like, no, I screwed this up and I screwed that up, and you're like, oh, I didn't hear that at all, because you're not going to, because that person knows their own thing, and like you say, their cues and every single little move that they need to make, they know exactly how it's supposed to go. So if you misplace just one little thing, even though it's not even, no one's going to notice it, you still know in your mind that you made this little mistake, and I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, you can talk to the guys in Rammstein even after their show, and they would be like, "Yeah, we did a terrible show tonight."
Yeah,
and it's like
it was perfect.
We didn't. It was fucking great.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
So I think everybody, all the musicians I've ever met in my life, it's all the same.
Yeah.
They all have the same, thing. But yeah, especially this tour, I think people they seem extremely happy with the outcome, and they're just out there, they're just, for this couple hours that they're with us, they're all their whatever's happening with them in their lives, they're able to sort of put that on hold for a couple hours and rock out with us, which is always awesome. And you just kind of have to put yourself in their shoes,
Exactly. And that goes back to, I'm just going to hark back to the concept, despite singing or writing about like sometimes negative things, at the end of the day, like what we're asking people to come and join us in is a rock show where we're having fun. It's done, and we're just doing everything in our power to make everyone in the room feel as good as possible, walking out feeling strengthened to deal with life.
Yeah.
The same way that we are doing this just to deal with life.
To deal with life. Yeah.
Because without it, I don't know, what I can't really do anything else.
Oh my God. I work in a mini mart again.
No.
That'd be cool.
I see. I'm just gonna sort of still something here, and not without going into detail. I see a lot of Brazilian flags on the feed.
Come to
And
Brazil.
there's a lot of come to Brazils.
That's a
And
thing.
I'm not gonna tell you that we are, but stay tuned, peoples.
That feels like you're telling something.
I didn't say anything.
Well, you hinted. There's some more Brazilian flags.
I see more Brazil.
Okay.
So stop it now.
That's enough. We get it. We get it.
Stay tuned. All right. So next bullet points then. Big readers, it says here. What are you reading? Are you a big reader, Brann?
I don't think I'm a huge reader, but I've read a couple books here and there. A couple comic books.
Mm.
Not really. Let's see. What's the last book you read? Do you remember it?
The thing is that the last book I physically read, I've switched over to listening to books.
Oh, that's cool.
And which I spent most of my life reading books, but I must say that a lot of the books that I've actually read are, for the most part, factual.
Yeah.
Biographies.
Same. Yeah.
And crime and politics and stuff like that.
Learning how to do crime. Get
exactly.
it?
Yeah. It's just a way to get ahead.
Yeah.
In so many ways.
Oh, I know.
But
what's the last one you listened to then?
You know what? I am on tour. I am very kind of like what you said about the Metallica documentaries.
Mm-hmm.
I listen to things that makes me feel at home.
Okay.
So I have, this is going to sort of fly over a lot of people's heads, but maybe those who live in Sweden will know this writer called Jan Guillou. He has written a big long series about like a Swedish sort of James Bond sort of character, and I like hearing. Also, I like the voice of the guy who reads all the books.
Okay.
Thomas Bolme. He was the voice of Tintin when I was a kid.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I have his hairdo.
Yeah, I actually do too.
Yeah.
Sweet. And he always read the Tintin books.
Oh,
so,
cool. So his voice is.
Yeah, it's just like a big hairy chest that you can sort of
grandma's meatballs. Yeah,
exactly. And most of the actual books that, I mean, obviously Jan Guillau's books are, you can think about it, whatever you think about him, and they are very kind of macho, and it's a lot of guys like it because it's about the Swedish sort of tough person who he's a Navy SEAL, and he does a lot of unreal shit, and he's like this superhero. But it has to do with history, and he always kind of weave his history into historic events and stuff like that. So it's that's cool, interesting. But I must say that to whatever extent there are, I've also, just to answer the question about like readers, I'm assuming that people think when you're talking about being an intellectual person who've read a lot, you're talking about like big works, right? And most of them I actually haven't read. I've read, a few. Crime and Punishment. I've tried to flow through Dostoevsky.
Yeah, it's hard. A lot of names.
Yeah, and
like
so I have
so many names.
I have a bigger picture of what they're about. I've sort of struggled through Kafka's some of his books, but on the other hand, some of the concepts that he came up with, the process, and they are so replicated in film, and I've seen a lot of films. So most of my actual book experience comes from seeing films.
Yeah, me too. I was more raised on movies.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I was like movie person,
Yeah. So I've never read The Master and Marguerite, but I've seen like a theater play.
Right. That's cool.
So yeah.
Or I find if you put if you go ahead and if you put the subtitles on, then you read the movie.
Yeah, that's true.
Then you can tell people, I was reading this movie the other day. And they'll be like, ooh, an intellectual. Wow, look what we have here.
Yeah. I listen to books and read films.
Yes. See? all works out. I read a book called What is the What? And it was basically about Sudanese, the Lost Boys of the Sudan.
Oh, okay.
And it was one of the Lost Boys that had been displaced. I think he was maybe moved to Syracuse, I think, and he was a victim of a home invasion, and he was being held hostage, and
In Syracuse.
yeah, in his apartment, and
Oh,
he
shit.
was hearkening it, and then he goes in and out of his story about how he got to where he was, and telling the whole story of being in the Sudan during that time period, and being a refugee, and walking hundreds of miles, and just everything that kind of danger in the tall grass type of situations that they were in. Excellent book.
Yeah.
What is the What? Check it out.
All right. Yeah, good good advice there. Yeah, but I think it's important to read and try to absorb a little bit of everything.
Yes.
And I think that is and then of course you can sort of go into the rabbit hole of what you're interested in. But I think it's I, at least from my experience, having seen a lot of films and everything from completely pulp, absolutely bullshit horror to growing up with a very liberal mom who showed me a lot of French and German films and about this, that, and the other, a lot of relationship drama and,
me
stuff
too.
like
Yeah,
that.
that's what I meant to. I really am not a big fan of like action movies, too much. I need more story and yeah, some rom-coms.
Yeah. Good.
All right, here, listen. There's a lot of buzz around this song called "Mary on a Cross." I know about this. I was told that people are TikToking it.
Yes.
Like they won't stop TikToking it. And
No.
What's going on with that?
I am. I'm also a little bit baffled. I am happy that it. This might sound strange, but I'm happy that it happened to a track that we actually have ever since we released it. We played live. It's always been one of our favorite songs to play.
Right, it's the staple in the set, and
exactly.
But it was more of you guys want to put it in there. It wasn't necessarily like the big fan favorite, right?
No, at the time, and the backstory of it. Obviously, anyone listening here, knowing the way we conduct ourselves, social media wise, knows that we have this sort of parallel made up story.
Okay. Yeah.
Of a story that just sort of continues. That is there because it actually started with Tom Wally,
yes. Love Tom Wally.
The head of the label. When we got signed to the label, he was like, "Well, there has to be a story, right?" And I was like, "Well, it's an anonymous band. There's no biography here.
Yeah.
Well, there have to be a story. Okay, I give you a story," and I made this story up. And this EP or single, 7 Inches of Satanic Panic, is a throwback to 1969 when there was like a proto Ghost sort of doing a few songs. That was the first try. That was the first stab at the Project Ghost from the Clergy.
Right.
So this is all fun.
Yeah, 69.
Yeah. So I had this idea because I've always been
I know
a big
about
fan
that number.
Yeah, I've tried that.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it doesn't always turn into shit.
Right.
So ever since we got that out in 2019, we played those songs. So now when that happened, that sort of I don't know, phenomenon and success is something that a lot of labels, they work their asses off to do that. Because if you're a pop artist or an artist, you want a song to be trending on TikTok. You want people to be sucked in from you.
Right.
And the label, in about a month ago when this started to happen, they were like, "We wish we could tell you that this was our
doing."
But it isn't. This is like a completely organic thing. We had nothing to do with it. We just released a song 3 years ago, and now this happened.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, lucky us then that we're already playing this song. It would have been weird if it was on B-side somewhere.
And you hadn't rehearsed it in the 3 years or whatever.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, this is the big song now. So here we go.
Okay, we already played. Sweet.
Yeah.
What's the song about? Are you able to divulge the information, or no?
I can, to a certain degree. It's I think that there is a
I read the lyrics.
I think, and now just because I've been asked, especially from angles where you feel a little bit more obliged to really answer, as in your kid has a friend who asked, what does the chorus mean?
Does that happen? Has it happened?
That has happened.
Okay.
So, and all of a sudden I'm like, okay, well, she heard somewhere that it's perverse. Okay,
I don't think it's. I wouldn't think that it's perverse.
So I can just clear up that
maybe some kind of an addiction or something is happening within there.
Yeah, and there are multiple layers of the lyrics that might be might be important for people to understand that. Okay, so the chorus is written very tongue-in-cheek, of course. Go down doesn't necessarily mean as in a 69 sense of the word.
Right.
It can also mean go down as in go down in history.
Yes.
Go down, and that's, you're on ascend.
Yes.
You're ascending. Mary doesn't necessarily mean Mother Mary of Jesus. It also,
I gathered that.
It might mean Mary Magdalene.
Right.
The proclaimed whore that might have actually been the wife of Jesus, if you want to be just as a symbol for someone who came off as one thing but actually had other intentions and did something else.
Yes.
So someone who's miscredited.
Yeah.
And I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not going to explain exactly all the elements of the song, but it's more about friendship and how you together with someone else might have been something at one point, and then you just ended up not being like that.
Yeah.
And also just throwing it out there. My stage name when I was in Repugnant was Mary Gore. So
yeah, so
it might be an internal conversation as well.
It's possible.
I'm just telling you that.
Okay.
So it has very little to do with the mother of Jesus.
Right.
Because I don't want anybody to believe that she was not a virgin.
Yeah. Yep. Nope.
All right. How do you feel? We're almost at the end of the tour.
Oh. Yeah.
We are actually.
We are. This is the end for us. You're going to Wisconsin, and we are going to Kentucky. So this is our last time to share the stage together on this particular run.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll do it again sometime. But yeah, it's been awesome. I'm having a great time.
Yeah, me
I
too.
love playing hockey arenas with you, Tobias. It's fun.
Yeah, despite the saloon doors, the symbolic saloon doors around the toilet.
Oh, it's all good. That's just par for the course.
Yeah,
as they say.
I don't get it. Why is that? And I'm not even remotely like homophobic or I have no problem with like seeing people.
Oh, of course, you're Swedish.
Yeah,
a lot of nudity with it. We toured with some Swedish bands, and they like to be naked, which is fine.
Which is fine, but one
thing
I don't get.
We're a little more prude, the Americans. Were
how
like,
come?
Don't see it.
How come the weird. American locker rooms are built the way they are? Because they're constructed to make you show your penis and show off you're taking a shit in front of each other.
Yeah, I don't get it either.
Is that a team building thing, you think?
I think it must be.
Yeah. It must be.
Yeah.
Because all that prudeness, that sort of
it has to be. You can't have it if you're going to be involved in team sports. You can't have it. You just have to get it out, right? And listen, this is what I got going on. If you want to say something about it, that's fine. We can talk about it.
Yeah.
But you're going to be showering together and getting all grab assy. I don't know what goes on.
No. And that is not even, what I don't get is the obtuseness when it comes to everything outside a sporting arena. Oh, don't show that. I don't want to hear it. I have no problem with people doing this, that, or the other, but I don't ever want to hear about it.
Yeah.
But then you have no problem like taking a shit in front of you
Yeah.
people.
Right.
So
or if
I
you've
don't know.
ever been to the gym and you know.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a little side note. Like we're just
we
it's
just been in the locker room every single day for the last month and a half or so, and it's on our minds. It's on everyone's minds.
yeah, but it's been a
Right.
great tour.
It has been.
I always love touring with you guys, and I
Yeah.
always love talking to you.
Yeah. Thanks.
It's a nice.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
man.
Brann. So
To the
everybody
fans.
happy? Or
To
do we want to wrap with one more question, maybe? And that'll be it?
Yeah, we'll do one more fan question.
Okay, so one more. This will be the second. Sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry, we got blabbering.
All right, we've got one.
Make it a juicy one. Or it doesn't have to be juicy. It could be dry.
Okay, so this is from Cat Terror Duchess. Do any of you have any themes that you're thinking of next for your future releases? So like literary or historical themes? Anything to diverge to your fans?
It's going to be a very simple answer. Yes.
I'm also going to say yes, and then that's all
That's
I can
it.
say about that. You
That's
can't.
all you're gonna get.
Yeah, you can't. That's way too soon to be divulging that kind of information. That's hush hush and kept in a secret file.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
All right.
all right,
Cool.
Hey,
But peoples around the world, stay tuned. We're touring a lot next year.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you.
and we love you.
Yes, we do. Thank you all for
Thanks
listening in, and for those of you who come out to shows, it's always so gratifying to see you guys happy. And
Yeah.
I hope to see many more of you next year.
Yeah, same. I want to see you. Love you. Bye.
Want to reach out and grab you. All right. Thank you. Good night. Good afternoon. Goodbye.